So, with the blockbuster announcement yesterday of WWE going to Netflix, and the possibility that Okada from New Japan Pro Wrestling could be NXT bound, if not WWE PC bound, the other big news that broke was that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, was named to the TKO Board of Directors and, from what I'm understanding, was given 30% ownership of WWE. And what makes, this news, very interesting in particular is, as we've seen on Raw, especially at the Day 1 event, it feels like they want to build towards Roman Reigns and The Rock, in some capacity match-wise, before this year is out. Whether it's at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia, whether it's at Elimination Chamber next month in Australia, Backlash in Paris, who knows? SummerSlam, who knows? But it feels like they're finally going to get to that point. And now you have this. You have this coming into play. And what's interesting is this is something that obviously WWE and Nick Khan wanted to do for a while. They wanted to try to get Rock a position on the board. I'm assuming they wanted to get him a position on the board of directors, even when WWE was, their own thing, when, still the McMahons owned it and everything, pretty much straight out. They wanted to get him on the board, but it just couldn't happen. Now it's happened. I think Nick Khan, when he found out that, hey, Endeavor, Ari Emanuel, and Mark Shapiro and all of them are going to have more say than Vince, hey, there's the opportunity, and obviously the suggestion he made, came to pass. But what makes this really interesting, too, is in addition to him being the board of directors for TKO, having now, I should say, 30% ownership, or 30% ownership stake, I should say, in the WWE itself, Dwayne Johnson also gets the rights to his Rock name back. Because at times, when he decided to go full Hollywood back in the mid to late 2000s, he had to tell people, please, don't call me The Rock. Don't call me The Rock right now, or don't call me The Rock anymore. And it wasn't because he wanted to disassociate himself with wrestling and WWE, no. It's because legally he didn't have the rights to the name. WWE did. Well, now TKO has said, basically has said that along with him being part of the board of directors, having 30% ownership in the company, guess what? You get to have your name back because you made it. What it is, that's your property. You have the right to do whatever you want with it. So what does that mean? That means if Dwayne wanted to, Dwayne Johnson wanted to, he could, pull some strings, show the kind of stroke he has, and he could waltz right over to TNA, make a guest appearance there, and he wouldn't have to worry about being called Dwayne Johnson. No, he could be The Rock. He could be, announced as The Rock, or he can show up surprisingly as The Rock. Same with AEW. If he decided to pull a few strings here, show how much stroke he has, he could, and maybe even convince Tony Khan, hey, I want to show up and help promote your company because promoting other companies and showing there's more opportunity out there helps the business. He could be showing up at AEW even for a one-off appearance as The Rock. When they have the opening day of the UFL, the XFL, USFL merger, once they have the first day, the first game, next month, in 2 months, I should say, in a little over 2 months, he's not going to come out as Dwayne Johnson. He's going to be coming out as The Rock. He's going to come out as The Rock. He'll come out with his music and everything. And what's interesting about this is, if you want to tell anybody that follows this guy's career from his days in Miami as part of the Miami Hurricanes, the national championship team, to his, to the start of his career where he got, some notoriety as Flex Cabana. Yeah, that's what his name, Flex Cabana, I think, in the USWA, to becoming Rocky Maivia, to being The Rock, and all that. If you would have told this guy, or told anybody that followed his career at that time, he was going to be 30% owner of WWE, that he was going to be on the board of directors of the company that owned WWE, that ran WWE, if you would have told them back then, 34 years ago, nobody would have believed you. Nobody would have believed you, but yet here we are. here we are. And what makes this so interesting, the timing of it, is, like I said, they want to try to get Rock and Roman, finally off the table before this year is out. And by basically having him become part of the board of directors, being pretty much, a owner, a co-owner, having a lot of say, basically the boss of WWE, even over Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce. What makes this interesting, the timing of it, is if you really want to emphasize whether or not Roman Reigns is everything he says he is, the tribal chief, the head of the table, and all that, if you really want to emphasize that now as, is what he's telling us true, or has it always been true, or is he just making, crap up? You inject this, reality, this news, this reality, if you will, into the storyline, and you pretty much have a direct path to wherever this match is going to take place in, with a lot of, legitimate, realistic, elements added to it. Because now it wouldn't just be Roman Reigns potentially defending the undisputed title against his cousin, along with the role, along with the title of tribal chief and head of the table. But now, because you'd be injecting this realism, this legit realism, reality that has happened into the story, now Roman Reigns, probably on his own, by the order of his own cousin, would have to go out on his own, no help, and prove, by himself in the ring, in a match against The Rock, that he is everything he says he is, so that way he doesn't come off as a liar. Because I could see them playing into this down the line the more they build to it. Like, let's say they want to do it at WrestleMania 40 on night 1 or 2. Or let's say they want to do it at SummerSlam 2024. They could build into this to the point, they could have Rock make appearances, and Rock could basically confront Roman, and tell him that, if you are, and basically tell him, hey, if you really are everything you say you are, tribal chief, head of the table, and all that, then why do you always have to have our family constantly bail you out just like when we were kids? And maybe even have Rock reference, 2015, the Royal Rumble there. Say, hey, need I remind you I had to bail your ass out in 2015 after you won the Rumble match because nobody wanted you to be the winner, nobody wanted you to be in the main event? He says, it's always been this way with you, throughout our entire lives. Everybody seems to have to bail Joseph Owani, and you can use his real name if they really want to go there, Joseph Owani out because he's too scared to be on his own. He's too much of a coward. You could do that. You could do that. You could do that, and that would play, and legitimately, you could do that, and again, from Roman's perspective, it would motivate him to try to, even as a heel, it would motivate him, having everything stacked against him now, to basically go out there and say, okay, Rock, okay, Dwayne, you want me to prove I could beat you? You want me to prove I'm everything I say I am? Okay, fine, you got it. I'll prove it in the ring. And then maybe you book him to do exactly that. You have him run through The Rock. You have him beat him and prove, yeah, see? I'm not that little kid anymore. I'm not that scared little coward anymore. I can get the job done on my own. And then you know what you do in the process? You get the fans to get behind him more so than they are now. And not just behind him because, oh, he's the cool heel and everything. No. They get behind him because now they're seeing the Roman Reigns that they wanted to see when he was a babyface. They're seeing the badass Roman Reigns. Even if he loses to Cody, on one of those nights on WrestleMania weekend, whether it's 1 or 2, if it's night 1 he loses to Cody, then you have him re-solidify himself, Roman that is, by beating Rock and retaining his title as tribal chief, and you have him doing it in a dominant way. And then guess what? That last image you see before WrestleMania goes off the air for the weekend, guess what? That last image is you see the fireworks and you hear fans chanting Roman's name. Because now fans are seeing the Roman Reigns they wanted to see, as I mentioned, back when he was a babyface, being nothing more than a badass. Being nothing more than a badass and not having to rely on people to bail him out. To me, it fits itself into that equation. Now there is another direction they can go in. and that's a fact. That direction could be, Rock shows up, inserts his power a little bit, makes sure that all the matches Roman's going to be in from now on is just Roman by himself, especially when it comes to Mania, and Roman, very slowly starts having his empire, fall down. And it starts with, him barely squeaking out victories on his own. Like, let's say this Saturday at the Rumble, whoever he faces at Chamber, it all starts with him barely squeaking them out and everything, and showing that, hey, he doesn't want to get his hands dirty, or hey, maybe he is not everything he says he is, and all that. And then come WrestleMania, that's when things could really start storyline-wise come crashing down. Because, like I said, if you want to do Cody and Roman on night one, Cody gets his moment, and then night two, Rock beats Roman, and he loses the status as tribal chief, head of the table. But at the same time, you have the reuniting of the Usos along with Solo turning against him, and joining and supporting The Rock as the true tribal chief, the true head of the table. And then what do? You use, this downfall, this crashing down of everything upon him, you use that as motivation. You use that as motivation for him, storyline-wise, to build himself back up and realize, hey, maybe I shouldn't have tried to be something I'm not, and maybe I should just be the badass Roman Reigns that I was when I was part of the Shield. And there you go. You don't have to worry about tribal chief, head of the table no more, record title reigns and all that. No, you get to where you wanted to be with this guy from the get-go, even after you separated the Shield. You get him to go back to being the badass Roman Reigns that goes out there, and kicks ass, that comes through the crowd when his music hits, very familiar music to the Shield, basically the Shield music. You have him come through the crowd, get in the ring, bell rings, bam, beats his opponent down, kicks their ass, wins the match, and then leaves. You get to that point finally. And then maybe what you do is you build him up to take on whoever the next big badass is that they're trotting down there. Like let's say they have high hopes on Braun Breaker. You build Braun Breaker up as the new Paul Heyman guy that represents Paul Heyman, because by this time you have Paul Heyman turn against Roman, and the first step to Roman, going back to being a babyface, a badass babyface, is kind of basically grabbing hold of Paul Heyman at the end of Mania and basically beating the hell out of him, or basically putting him to sleep, showing that, hey, I don't need you anymore, and hey, you were just using me. That could be, that could be the first step. And then, like I said, the next Paul Heyman guy could be Breaker, and then there you go. You have Breaker come out maybe on the SmackDown after Mania, attack Roman, and he's representing Paul Heyman, and like I said, there you go. You're off to the races. Roman goes away for a little bit, comes back by SummerSlam maybe Money in the Bank at the earliest, and away you go. With Roman Reigns redeeming himself, finally building himself back up, to what he should have been in the first place, even after the Shield was disbanded. To me, there's a lot of elements that, could be led, and there's a lot of things, a lot of elements that could, happen because of what's going on now. Because again, you inject that realism and that question of now who is the true head of the table, tribal chief, and all that. And you slowly start building to whenever the match takes place between Rock and Roman, and you go, and you kind of go the way I'm thinking they might go, or they may go, probably more than ever. You do that, and you get, the end goal is you get back to what Roman Reigns was supposed to be before Vince McMahon decided, at the suggestion of Kevin Dunn and such, hey, make him say Severin Succotash, have him try to be John Cena 2.0, have him try to be this, have him try to be that, instead of just saying, hey, let Roman Reigns be Roman Reigns. There's a lot of potential that's going to come out of this, especially from a storyline perspective. And that's something everybody has to keep their eye on. That's what they got to keep their eye on, keep their ears to the ground and all that. That's what they have to do. That's what they have to do, because a lot could come out of this. And again, you inject this, sudden dose of reality into the storyline, between Roman and Rock for their match. And, again, you're off to the races. You're off to the races. So it's just, so what it is really in closing is it's up to WWE. Are they going to finally do this? Are they going to finally pull this trigger, or are they just going to hold off on it until it's too late? We'll have to see. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this. What are your thoughts on The Rock being, a part of the TKO Board of Directors, having ownership stake in WWE at 30%? What are your thoughts about that? What are your thoughts on them injecting this new change into this reality into the storyline, with Roman and everything, and going down the path of either Roman loses everything and then you use that to build him back up to be the babyface he should have been, badass-wise when the Shield originally broke up, or do you keep him as he is, you let him stay tribal chief, but the last image we see on night 2, if they decide to close out WrestleMania with him and The Rock for the title of tribal chief, do you keep him as that after he beats The Rock, decisively on his own, and then you have the whole crowd in Philadelphia, one of the most hardcore, smart mark cities around, wrestling cities around. All of a sudden you have that image at Lincoln Field of them along with all these fans from across the world chanting for Roman, because they're suddenly seeing the Roman Reigns they wanted to see originally. And then you start going down that direction. Would you be, what are your thoughts on that? Your thoughts on that possibly happening, or the other way around that I mentioned, to where, everything comes crumbling down. Paul Heyman turns on him. He attacks Paul Heyman, at the end of Mania to kind of send everybody home on a happy note, and having the first step of him now be a babyface, and then potentially someone like Breakker or whoever they bring in to represent Paul attacking him, sending him away for a few months, bringing him back, but between Money in the Bank and SummerSlam, so he can beat the guy that beat him, and then start the redemption to being the badass babyface he should have been. What are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts overall on this? Because this is huge. This is definitely huge. But let me know how you feel. And until next time, guys, I'm out.